Bichard.
Alex Telles. Anthony.
Yeah, it's World Cup squad announcement week for the World Cup. A really exciting, great week. And that was Brazil and some of their players finding out they're making the trip to Qatar. Not too many surprises, perhaps, but there may be some. Albert, Sara, I'm James, getting you set for room 442 on this Tuesday. All right, so listen, we know how good Brazil is, right? How great they are, how they're the favourites. But who are the glaring omissions, do you think, from this Brazil squad? I mean, listen, they're so deep.
Yeah.
There's so many great players. You can make a case for numerous players who should be there, who shouldn't be there, but the 26 is pretty good to me. But who are the 2 or 3 that you think should be there?
Yeah, I don't think it's glaring. Maybe more surprising, Firmino, based on his form this season with Liverpool. But if you look at that attack, where does he fit in? Where is he going to play, right? You have Gabriel Jesus, Martinelli, Rafinha, Neymar. I mean, these are some of the best attackers in the world, so I understand him being left out. And Gabriel at Arsenal as well. He's had a pretty good season. Personally, I don't rate him that well. I think he's just playing really well alongside Saliba. And how are you going to get in front of Marquinhos or Thiago Silva? But from a depth perspective, I think Gabriel missing out is surprising.
Yeah, Firmino, I mean, he's playing really well this year, like you said, but he's had a couple of off years and he fell out of contention for Brazil's squads as well. And if he's competing with an Antony, for example, who's a guy that's made the Brazil squad, after a decent start to his life at United, that might be the one argument you can make. But I mean, let's be honest. I mean, I don't know who's starting for Brazil. You can make a case for numerous people. Is Richarlison healthy? It's Martinelli who got the call-up, which is not a surprise necessarily, but an interesting one nonetheless. I mean, where do you go with this attack for Brazil if you're Chiche?
I mean, I'm not really surprised Firmino's not there. I don't really think he deserves to be there with everyone else that's there. Like, they have such a deep squad. Like, I don't think he should be there over anyone else. I almost feel worse, for Gabriel from Arsenal. But Albert's right. How does he get in with that squad? But in terms of their attack, I think you have to start, of course, Neymar and Gabi Jesus with the way he's playing. Rafinha on the right. And then on the left, you would have...
Probably Gabi.
Yeah. Well, but they usually play 4-2-4. So it would be Neymar as the number 10, which is scary too because Neymar doesn't play number 10 at PSG. So he's going to be playing it's going to be nuts.
Yeah, and they have playmakers. And what's Firmino's role, right? He likes to drop in and play make. They don't need that.
They can play Richarlison.
And it's Brazil, right? You can see a Pedro emerge, a guy from the Brazilian league emerge as a start of this World Cup, right?
Yeah.
It does happen with Brazil, but exciting nonetheless. And I love those reactions. It's just great. If you read biographies of Brazilian players, playing for their country is everything.
Yeah.
It's number one, and that's their family affected. It's just a religion over
And I think
there,
sometimes we actually forget that these guys are human beings
Yeah.
and how much these things mean. So I love the romantic side of this game.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's why when Brazil players put that shirt on, they grow in stature, as opposed to other countries. Sometimes they shrink a little bit, right?
Yeah.
The weight of the shirt is too much. You don't see that with Brazil, not very often. I mean, there's the occasional 7-goaler, right?
Yeah.
We won't talk about that one, right? But it's just, listen, they're back to their best, and it'll be fun to watch. As I mentioned, it is squad announcement week, though. So who you got, Albert? What storyline are you looking at as the squads are slowly announced?
Yeah, Son, that's a big one. We talked about squad depth yesterday on World Cup when it comes to certain teams, and no Son for South Korea is huge. I mean, if I'm Uruguay, Ghana, and Portugal in that group, and there's no Son, that's one less team I have to worry about. That's how big of an impact this guy has on that team, And going through qualifying, they weren't that great. They had to qualify over like Lebanon, Iraq, and Syria. So qualification was going to happen regardless. And they struggled with Son. So imagine going into this group against some of the heavy hitters without your best player. It's bad news.
But they are one of the fittest teams too at the World Cup, and with the heat.
But you mentioned it, right? You need your best players.
You do, especially a team like Korea.
It's the equivalent, almost the equivalent of Canada losing Alphonso Davies.
Yeah, very similar.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe even more so for South
Well,
Korea.
I think Canada's got. Is it fair to say?
They're deeper.
Depth.
They're deeper. Yeah.
Wow. Do you think about that?
Yeah.
Deeper than South Korea?
Yeah.
Huh? Who knew? What about you, Sara?
It's got to be Angel Di Maria for Argentina. We heard that Messi was injured, but he also is meant to be training with the squad as of yesterday. He's left PSG, but Di Maria is such a massive component for this Argentinian side. He creates so many chances. He's so important on that right wing. He has the pace, and he also can score goals. And without him, especially, we were talking about Dybala off air, he's been injured since September, so I think he'll be out. But, you know, I feel like it'll be probably like Messi, Martinez, and then Di Maria, and Lo Celso or Rodrigo de Paul, maybe, I don't know. But that right wing for Argentina is dangerous with Di Maria. I think he's such an underrated player to this day. And I think it could, like, I know they, like I said, they have Messi, but without Di Maria.
He's underrated just because he failed in England, which is ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right? Because he is such a wonderful player. Also, maybe the skinniest legs in football.
The skinniest footballer.
This is 4 years ago, actually, the World Cup.
Another big game player.
Yeah.
That's the
Di Maria.
France-Argentina game, by the way.
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah. 4-2, I think.
Excited. Was it 4-2, was it? Getting excited about this World
I
Cup
know.
right now.
It's so soon.
The one I'm looking at right now is England, and it's James Maddison. Does he make Gareth Southgate's squad? And if so, at the expense of whom? Is Mason Mount on the way out? You can talk about up front. Does Callum Wilson get in there? Does Ivan Toney behind Harry Kane? But James Maddison, I don't know what more he can do. He's been brilliant for Leicester, who have been really poor for much of this season, but they're playing much better now. Not because of him. And he can unlock defences with his passing, and he has a goal in his boot as well.
Yeah.
I think you need that type of player in a World Cup squad.
And he's playing with a point to prove because he wants to make that squad. But it's hard with Gareth Southgate, right? He's so loyal. We keep talking about his loyalty, but I mean, at this point, with the amount of injuries and lack of form for some of these center midfielders, Calvin Phillips and Mason Mount, you need someone who's in form who can play make, who can sit behind Harry Kane.
I think that's one of the reasons why England has failed to, win a major tournament with Southgate, because of these loyalties. He's playing favourites, and I think it's kind of bitten England in the behind because you have a player like James Maddison who totally deserves to be there, and it would be such a shame to not see him get a call up.
But still,
I will
they
tell you,
went
though,
to a final, right?
Yeah, it got
they
to a final
lost.
and a semi-final.
Penalties.
Yeah, but Sarah, honestly, as an England fan my whole life, that was almost like winning a trophy. Right? I haven't seen that before.
Yeah.
So I think what Southgate's done, he's done more than Sir Bobby Robson.
Well, the squad
Fabio
you guys
Capello.
have is definitely great. Don't get me wrong. The talent you guys have is there. You should be winning tournaments. But I'm wondering, are you guys falling just short because of the way he plays favourites to certain players?
Possibly. Well, I mean, sorry to interrupt, but
No, go ahead.
Raheem Sterling is a guy that's not in good form right now, but guaranteed to be on that plane and might well start that first game, right? With Kane playing a deeper role for England, obviously, and Sterling has got goals. He's proven that. It wouldn't surprise me, but that's not meritocracy.
No, not at all. That was my next question. Do you think Southgate would use Kane more in a 10 role, as we see him at Spurs sometimes? Because when Kane plays that way for Spurs, everything ticks for Tottenham.
But Spurs have goals elsewhere, right? You have Harry Kane, who's still the favourite, by the way. I think at plus 550 to win the Golden Boot. He's still the most dangerous goal scorer by a mile in
Right.
England. Maybe, at the World Cup right now. How do you put in a position where he's not going to be in those positions?
My point is, like, maybe he would leave up Madison for that reason because he's going to use Kane
In a
that
deeper
type of
role, yeah. Well, so far he has done,
Right,
right?
yeah.
Often, so who knows?
He's got to go. He's got to go.
He has to go, yeah. I mean, but every year, great players are left out. And you say, how did that happen? I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, it happens. We've got to mention quickly, good old Sepp Blatter. Yeah, he's still around, living life in Switzerland. He's not in jail. He, of course, was a president of FIFA when they announced Qatar and Russia twice in one day, remember, back in 2010 as hosts for the World Cup. He's now coming out and saying it was a mistake. Old Sepp Blatter says, yes, it was a wrong choice to make. I don't know why we're giving him time.
Just 12 years later.
Just shrivel away
Yeah.
our consciousness, but here we are. It rubbed me the wrong way, and I guess we shouldn't report on it because we're giving him a platform here, but come on.
Yeah.
The most corrupt era in FIFA's history, and you know why it's in Qatar.
Yeah.
And for him now to say, it was a mistake.
And that was the only time they announced two at the same time, right? That's
Yeah,
never been
only
done
There
twice.
were
before.
so many questions.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's that documentary that's coming out, right?
It's literally in
On
2
Netflix.
days. I cannot wait.
That's why he's saying this. He's going to come off looking pretty bad.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
probably. Yeah.
Exactly what it is.
Totally.
Still, him aside.
Get him off the screen.
It's World Cup squadding out. I keep saying squad. It's squad, not roster. Squad announcement
Roster?
week. Roster. It's squad announcement week. When we come back, we'll talk some Morocco and Canada. A lot of Canada. Later in the show, we'll talk about the midfield and who might start against Belgium. Albert has some opinions, shall we say. Much more after this.
Looking ahead to the World Cup, which is now just 12 days away, we know Canada is in Group F alongside Morocco, Belgium, and Croatia. Now, let's break down this Moroccan side a little bit, get to know this squad that Canada will be up against. I'm now joined with Nuhu Adams, who works with Ghana Soccer Net, coming to me from Ghana. Nuhu, how are you?
Um, Thank you very much for having me on the show today.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. So let's talk some Moroccan football. I want to just discuss quickly their road to the World Cup. You know, they were knocked out of the African Cup of Nations last year by Egypt in the quarterfinals. But since then, we saw they went unbeaten in their qualifying matches. And they got a new coach in Walid Regragui. And then Hakim Ziyech is now back with the squad. Has this team gotten a lot better since we saw them get knocked out in the AFCON?
Yes, I think as you rightly said, Morocco were the best team during the qualifiers in Africa. They went unbeaten and then did a very good job against DR Congo in the playoffs. They got 1-1 at away and beat them 4-1 in the return leg. So basically, Morocco had the best of teams or the best of statistics during the qualifiers, but their performance at the AFCON wasn't that encouraging. Yeah, they were eliminated in the quarterfinals by Egypt. They had wanted to go all the way to win the African Cup of Nations in Cameroon, but they couldn't get that. But that wasn't anything that should derail the team performances or the team spirit. Looking at the sort of squad they have, they believe they have what it takes to challenge every other team at the World Cup. They have players who are playing at top levels in European leagues and European competitions. So probably Morocco is ready. They have very good players. They have a very good team. They have a new coach, as you rightly said, Walid Regragui, having won the CAF Champions League with that Athletic Club. He had to replace Vahid Alilozic because of some misunderstanding between the Bosnian coach and the Moroccan Football Federation. So I think everything is set for them. They are ready. Everything is on course, and they are ready to face any team at the World Cup in Qatar.
Let's talk about some of the players. You mentioned some as well. I already spoke about Hakim Ziyech, but you know they have Hakimi, they have Enesri, they have Mazraoui, Bono. They have a really solid squad. Is this group of players good enough to get out of this group?
Yes, to be honest with you, Morocco are in a tough group. We all know. To be in a group with Belgium, Croatia, and Canada is such a tight group. But you see, this is the world stage. Morocco have players who have also played at the biggest stage. Yacine Bono was the best goalkeeper in the Spanish La Liga last season. He's been playing in the UEFA Champions League, Europa League. Achraf Hakimi playing for Paris Saint-Germain with the likes of Messi, Neymar, and Kylian Mbappe. He has everything. He has what it takes to play at the biggest stage. Nosel Mazraoui also playing for Bayern Munich. He was with Ajax last season. He was part of the Ajax team that went all the way to the semi-finals of the UEFA Champions League some few years ago. They have some players, Youssef Anasri also playing for Sevilla. They have Ayman Bakok. A lot of other players are also playing in European leagues. So looking at the squad quality, they have it there. But looking at how they will fare against countries like Belgium, you know Belgium, the Kevin De Bruyne, Romelu Lukaku. Belgium is a top side. Croatia were finalists in the last World Cup. Yes, they still have the experienced players of Luka Modric and other stuff. Canada can also will not be left out in terms of player quality and the sort of team they have. Alfonso Davies, Jonathan David, these players are world stars. So it's going to be a difficult group for Morocco, to be honest with you. But I think they will rather plan on getting a win against Canada, try as much as possible to get at least a draw in their two games against Croatia and Belgium and see if they can qualify. But they are in a tough group. Canada is not going to be a walk in the park for Morocco. Canada have the quality to compete as well.
Well, let's talk about Canada and Morocco because I think both teams are looking at each other thinking, okay, I can get a point or maybe three, with the likes of Croatia and Belgium, like you mentioned. And I know here in Canada, a lot of Canadian fans are thinking Canada can beat Morocco. Tell me what you think Morocco is going to do going into the match against Canada.
Yes, they Morocco will plan to get a win against Canada. So they will come all attacking. They will try to set up a team with all their best players featuring Hakim Ziyech is going to play, Ashraf Hakimi, Musel Mazraoui, the captain women's side. You have Yassine Bono in post. So the coach will basically try as much as possible to attack Canada, try to identify the weaknesses and then pounce on them. But you see, you do or you try to attack Canada, but you have to be very cautious because Canada is also having very good players, especially on the flanks. When you have Alfonso Davies, you have Jonathan David, who can at any point in time punish you in a match. You have it's going to be a very tight one. As you said, Canada are also thinking, looking at the team they have in the group. Morocco is the easiest team they can get 3 points and then try get one other point from Belgium or Croatia to make sure they can qualify. So that game is going to be very, very critical. It's going to be very, very tactical. I think the best coach is going to make sure he wins this game. It's going to be very, very tactical, to be honest with you. But I think looking at the recent performances of Morocco, I'm still not convinced they can do so well as many people are taking or believing them. But I think Canada against Morocco is going to be a 50-50 game. The individual brilliance of the players will determine who is going to win, especially if you have Alfonso Davies, Jonathan David, who can score from any position on the field. Maybe they can make the difference, but it's going to be a tight game.
Absolutely. Lastly, I just want to ask you, who do you think is going to come out of this group then?
This is a tight group. I think Belgium should be able to win this group. I know Canadians will not forgive me for this, but I think the next team that will qualify alongside Belgium is going to be Croatia.
Okay, very interesting. It is going to be very tight, though. I think some of these matches will be a lot closer. But I know we're both so excited for the World Cup to start. Like I said, just 12 days away. So hopefully we see some beautiful football. All right, thank you so much to Nuhu Adams coming all the way to us from Ghana. Guys, up next, Albert, James, and I will be breaking down Canada's midfield. So make sure to stay with us. We'll be right back.
Whoever John Herdman opts for in his starting 11, Canada's midfield is in for a stern test in Qatar, with the likes of Croatia's Luka Modric and Belgium's Kevin De Bruyne awaiting in World Cup Group F. Let's take a closer look at Canada's midfield options heading into the finals. 39-year-old Atiba Hutchison is facing a race against time to make it to Qatar. Canada's most capped player finally made it onto the subs bench in Turkey last weekend, but is still yet to play a single minute for Besiktas since bruising a bone in preseason. Likewise, Jonathan Osorio was limited to just one appearance in the final 2 months of Toronto FC's season after sustaining a serious concussion back in July. And teammate Marc-Anthony Kaye is in a similar position, having endured long spells out through injury since making a mid-season return to TFC in the summer. One player with both fitness and form right now is Stefan Eustáquio. The 25-year-old has cemented a starting place at Porto and has recently scored his second Champions League goal against Atletico Madrid. Also fit is Samuel Piette, who made his 150th appearance for CF Montreal earlier this year and played a key role in one of the club's best ever MLS seasons. The 27-year-old is solid, if a little one-dimensional, and is likely to feature in Herdman's World Cup planning. Fellow CF Montrealer Ismail Kone earned a first international cap earlier this year, only 4 games into his professional career, and has been praised by Herdman for his fearless mindset. The 20-year-old has already attracted big money interest from multiple clubs in England and is certain to be a star of the future.
All right, Albert. Yes, Kone, a future star. Absolutely. Kid's going to be pretty good. He's good now. But will he find a way into a starting 11 at this World Cup is a big question. But let's break down the midfield, shall we? We assume there'll be 3 starting, maybe 4. I'm not entirely sure on the formation right now. Out of the squad, though, who do you have and who starts against Belgium?
Well, ideally, I think Herdman should go with a 3, similar to the team that he started against Qatar. So he prefers the 2 holding midfielders, and he seems to use them in big games. Costa Rica, Jamaica, Qatar, obviously. I mean, it's a friendly, but it was a big game for Canada to kind of figure out their system. So I'm going with a double pivot with Sam Piette and Stefan Estacio. Estacio, for me, he's a shoo-in. If Atiba was healthy, if Ozo was healthy, I think those guys would finish off the rest of the midfield 3. But I'm going with Piette for the reason that he's more of a like-for-like replacement with Atiba. I mentioned in that piece that he's a one-dimensional guy, but he does that very well. Holds the ball well. He sits back. He plays that similar position for CF Montreal. Then you have Estacio, I think, playing beside him, as we've seen with Qatar. They're very comfortable, and that allows Estacio, gives him the confidence, having someone who can hold behind him to go forward, which will help Canada in attack. The third guy in, which is surprising, you had him in your starting 11, is Junior Hoylett. So I have him playing in the 10. Mm-hmm. That way you have a playmaker in possession, but he can also pack the midfield and defense. And the back 4 helps that as well, because now you'll be able to have Davies and Buchanan on the wings, fill in and play a 5 or even a 6 while defending. So
Done.
That's my reasoning
there's your,
for the 3.
There's your start. No, I like it. No Scotty Arfield, eh?
I want Scotty to make it. He still might. But
you never know. We'll find out, I guess, on Sunday. But Sam Piette, I love that, actually. He's almost a throwback to the previous generations of Canada, in that a real character guy. He's going to leave it all out on the field. Might not have quite the same skill set as, the Atibas, the Estacios, but still a great soldier and never lets you down. Now, obviously, ideally, you want Hutchison starting, Sara, and John Herdman will admit that, but who knows if he's played a minute by the point of the Belgium game. Are you comfortable with Sam Piette in that role?
Yeah, I think I've been one of the only ones that have been showing a little bit of hesitation when we do talk about Atiba in previous shows, just because of his lack of playing time and injury. So I would actually start Piette over Atiba, regardless of Atiba plays right now, because he hasn't been playing for so long and he's older. Maybe to come in as that 60, 70th minute sub, maybe, but we were talking about this off air, actually, that Piette, he's much more defensive. So when you're playing a team like Belgium, when you have the likes of a Kevin De Bruyne coming at you, who's a very attacking midfielder, somebody like Piette can also be a very defensive midfielder to kind of shadow him. I think it would be my midfield as well.
Think about Piette's form, right? He's not that far off match fitness, with CF Montreal going into MLS playoffs. And Herdman likes the fact that he plays a similar role, and he can play with Estacio, which we've seen. Going back to Atiba, if Atiba's fit and healthy, he gets into that 11. He's another defensive midfielder. But he hasn't played since, June 14th, when Canada played. I can't remember what the game was.
Yeah, but you're missing out on the one secret here, the X factor. It's Atiba. Superman.
I understand that.
He's always fit.
James, he hasn't played 90 minutes this last season.
This is the World Cup. They're not. This is the
Richie
first.
Laryea hadn't played for a long time. Back in January, came in and just was incredible.
Yeah, played in MLS.
This is what needs to be asked, right? Are Canada going to take part or to try and take over? And if we know Herdman, it's to take over. It's the latter. And I think you definitely have Atiba there, and hopefully on Wednesday he gets some minutes for Besiktas in a cup game, and then hopefully against Japan he gets some more minutes, and he's fit enough maybe to play half an hour, 45 minutes, which would be huge for Canada. But at the moment, I just can't imagine going into a World Cup game against Belgium, starting a player who hasn't played 90 minutes since last season, and then you're looking at Osorio as well. He's training, his fitness is getting better according to John Herdman. But he's coming off some neurological issues, a concussion.
Well, and he's not often actually a starter under Herdman as well. He comes in late in the game to
but he is a key
that
midfielder.
ball.
Yeah,
very important, of course. And you mentioned Coney, of course, who might be the X factor. Young players do emerge at World Cups.
Great options off the bench.
And he will be there in 2026, I imagine, starting in that midfield.
Right.
It might be a bit too soon for him here. Yeah. But I don't know. I mean, do you prioritize Belgium over Croatia or vice versa? So if Hutch isn't quite ready, but he might be ready for the Croatia game, is that also an inspiration to maybe sit him?
Yeah, you have to prioritize, I think, the Belgium game, go all out. First of all, it's the first match. You want to come in strong and you want to, make a name for yourself. You also don't want to get swept. Also, if we're looking at the two sides, Belgium's the stronger side. If Canada can try and hold Belgium or do anything, they have to do what they can against
game by
this.
game.
Yeah, it
maybe
is.
even half by half for Canada.
Exactly. Like the first game, everything goes into it.
We're debating about Canada starting midfield for a World Cup game. It still feels a little bit surreal.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. We'll find out. John Herdman often surprises us when that team sheet comes in. Like, he's starting. Oh, that's a formation. So I guess we'll find out the squad though on Sunday, and let's hope that TV gets some playing time for Besiktas in a cup match, which goes on Wednesday. All right, well, that is Room 442 for another day. We are back on Wednesday. More Canada, more World Cup, tons coming down for you, including a deep dive into Croatia.